The doors to the Grand Assembly Hall opened with a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. Ambassador Marcus Webb walked through first, his footsteps echoing in the massive chamber that stretched so high the ceiling disappeared into shadows. Behind him came four other humans, all dressed in simple dark suits that looked painfully plain compared to the elaborate displays of alien biology surrounding them. The chamber held representatives from over 800 species. Some floated in containment fields filled with exotic gases. Others stood on platforms adjusted for their gravity needs. A few existed as pure energy, their consciousness held in geometric crystalline matrices. The air hummed with translation fields, working overtime to convert thousands of languages into comprehensible formats. At the center of the chamber, 5 circular platforms waited. They were empty, surrounded by a shimmering field that distorted the air. Marcus understood immediately. Those platforms were for the accused. For humanity, a being made of living vines and glowing crystal leaves spoke first, its voice carrying the sound of wind through forests. The translation field rendered it into words Marcus could understand. The human delegation will take their positions for judgment. Marcus glanced at his companions. Dr. Olivia Grant, a xenobiologist who had spent 20 years studying alien cultures. General Thomas Kane, whose military career spanned for decades. Engineer Rachel Yoon, who had designed half of humanity's space infrastructure. Cultural liaison David Okonkwo, who spoke 17 alien languages fluently. They all nodded. Together they stepped onto the platforms. Immediately, the gravity field activated. Marcus felt himself lifted 3 meters into the air, suspended and exposed for every species in the chamber to see. His stomach dropped, but he kept his face neutral. High Chancellor Vorn materialized at the head of the assembly. The being was pure energy contained within a lattice of light that pulsed with authority. When it spoke, the entire chamber vibrated. Humanity stands accused of violations against the established order. For 200 cycles, this council has observed your expansion with growing concern. Marcus said nothing. Not yet. He had learned that silence could be as powerful as words. A massive armored creature rose from one of the lower platforms. Its shell was covered in razor-sharp sensory spines that twitched with agitation. The translation field identified it as Warmaster Thorn of the Krell Dominion. Your species has established colonies on 47 worlds. You have built stations in disputed territories. You move through sovereign space without proper respect for established protocols. Olivia leaned slightly toward Marcus and whispered through their private communication link. They are afraid. Look at their body language. She was right. Marcus had studied xenobiology enough to recognize the signs. The Krell's spines were flattened. The vine being's leaves rustled with nervous energy. Even species that showed no obvious emotion were displaying subtle tells fear, uncertainty. These powerful beings who controlled thousands of worlds were afraid of 5 humans standing in a gravity field. Serpentine alien with scales that shifted through. Colors like an emotional mood ring spoke next. Its voice hissed through the translation field. The issue is not merely your presence. The issue is your speed. Most civilized species require thousands of years to achieve what you have accomplished in 2 centuries. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost friendly. We followed every regulation. We filed every required document. We paid every fee and taxes. We have broken no laws. The serpentine being's scales flashed orange with frustration. That is not the point. Your growth rate destabilizes the established order. You reproduce too quickly. Your technology advances too rapidly. You are an anomaly that threatens the careful balance we have maintained for millions of years. High Chancellor Vorn's energy matrix pulsed brighter. The Council has deliberated. We have reviewed the evidence. We have considered all factors. The being paused, and Marcus felt the weight of 3,000 years of galactic civilization bearing down on him. We find humanity guilty of reckless expansion and violations of the slow growth protocols. The chamber erupted in sounds that the translation field struggled to convert. Clicks, whistles, harmonic resonances, and stranger forms of communication, all blending into a cacophony of approval. Vorn continued over the noise. The sentence is immediate cessation of all colonial expansion. Human vessels will be restricted to currently occupied territories. Any ship found beyond designated zones will be destroyed without warning. All new colonial efforts will cease within one standard cycle. Failure to comply will result in military action against your homeworld.
Ow.
The voting display lit up. 2,947 species voted in favor. 8 voted against. The rest abstained. General Kane's jaw clenched hard enough that Marcus could see the muscle twitch. Rachel's hands formed fists at her sides. David closed his eyes. Olivia stared at Marcus, waiting for a signal. The gravity field intensified, making it harder to breathe. Marcus felt the pressure on his chest. The message clear. Submit. Accept. High Chancellor Vorn spoke again, its voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Ambassador Webb, do you accept the Council's judgment? The entire chamber fell silent. 800 species focused every sensor, every camera, every form of perception on the 5 suspended humans. Marcus looked at each of his companions. He saw their anger, their frustration, their determination. Then he looked back at Vorn, and something in his expression changed. The friendly diplomat mask slipped away, revealing something harder underneath. No, the single word hung in the air like a blade drawn from its sheath. Several beings made sounds of shock. A few actually moved backward despite being dozens of meters away from the humans. High Chancellor, Vorn's energy matrix flickered with what might have been confusion. Then you leave us no choice but to enforce our judgment through. I am not finished, Marcus interrupted. Gasps echoed through the chamber. No one interrupted the High Chancellor ever. It was simply not done, Marcus continued. His voice quieter now, but somehow carrying to every corner of the massive space. We have been polite. We have been diplomatic. We have smiled and nodded and followed your rules for 200 years. We have been patient because we wanted to be good neighbors. He paused. And something in his eyes made several nearby species activate their emergency transport systems. But now, I'm actually annoyed. In the back of the chamber, an ancient being that had observed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations suddenly stood. Its form was difficult to focus on, existing partially in dimensions humans could not fully perceive. It spoke in a voice that sounded like the universe itself was sighing. I have seen this before. 3 million years ago, another young species, just before they stopped being patient, the being activated its emergency transport and vanished. More species began to leave. Not all of them, but enough that High Chancellor Vorn's energy matrix flashed with alarm. Why are members departing? Marcus's expression had not changed. He looked calm, almost pleasant, but there was something in his posture now that made predators recognize another predator. Let me tell you about human patience, Chancellor. Let me explain what it actually means when we say we have been patient with you. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop, despite no change in the environmental controls, and across the galaxy. Every species that had studied human history felt a cold understanding settle into their consciousness. They had made a terrible mistake. They had caged something they did not understand. And now they were about to learn why every species runs when humans say they are actually annoyed. The humans remained suspended in the gravity field. But somehow the power dynamic in the chamber had shifted. Marcus Webb no longer looked like a prisoner awaiting judgment. He looked like a teacher about to deliver a lesson that no one wanted to learn. Hi. Chancellor Vorn's energy matrix pulsed with what might have been irritation. Ambassador Webb, are you threatening this council? Marcus actually smiled at that.
Threatening?
No, Chancellor. I am educating you. You said we are reckless, too aggressive, too fast. But you do not actually know anything about us, do you? The vine being that had spoken earlier rustled its crystalline leaves with agitation. We have comprehensive files on Earth. Your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times before achieving space travel. Your world was torn by constant warfare between competing factions. You are barely civilized. Dr. Olivia Grant spoke for the first time, her voice carrying clinical precision. But you are wrong about something important. Earth still has those competing factions. We never unified. The chamber erupted into chaos. Beings turned to each other in confusion. Translation fields struggled to keep up with the sudden explosion of communication. The serpentine alien scales flashed through a rapid sequence of colors that the translation field rendered as profound shock. War Master. Thorn's sensory spine stood fully erect now, a sign of extreme agitation among the Krell. What are you saying? You achieved interstellar travel without world government? That is impossible. Every species unifies before reaching the stars. It is a fundamental law of civilization. David Okonkwo's voice was calm, almost gentle. Earth currently has 147 sovereign nations. We have 100. Young, true, Kane acknowledged. Which is exactly why we would never try to penetrate council space through military force. Then what are you threatening? Rachel pulled up new data on the holographic displays. Orbital mechanics. Gravitational calculations. Asteroid trajectories. Long-range projections. 3 years ago, we identified 847 large asteroids whose with minimal course corrections would intersect with populated council worlds within a 5-year window. The chamber went deathly silent. We did not move them. Rachel continued in a clinical tone. We did not weaponize them. We simply noted their existence and trajectories. For safety purposes, you understand. These asteroids have been moving through space for millions of years. They will continue moving, unless someone stops them. War Master Thorn's sensory spines flattened completely against its carapace. You are threatening to allow natural disasters to occur. That is barbaric, is it? Olivia asked. We are not creating the threat. We are simply choosing not to prevent it. Is there a moral difference? More importantly, can you stop 800 asteroids simultaneously while also defending against the possibility that we might do something else? Marcus saw the calculations happening behind alien eyes and energy matrices. The Council had resources, but they were spread across thousands of worlds. Defending everything at once was impossible. And that was before considering what else humans might do. A new voice entered the debate. Ambassador Lyra from the Concordia cluster floated forward on her platform. Her species was known for maintaining the most comprehensive historical databases in the galaxy. Hi, Chancellor. I have been reviewing human history during this session. I recommend we listen to what they are saying. They are making threats. Vorn's energy matrix pulsed with anger. No, Lyra said quietly. They are giving us warnings. There is a difference. The Ancient One who left earlier was correct. I have found the records. 3 million years ago, the progenitors, they were patient too, until they were not. The progenitors are legends, someone objected. They left ruins on 4,000 worlds, Lyra countered. Ruins of civilizations that tried to contain them. I am seeing the same patterns here. Humans are not showing us their military strength. They are showing us their civilian capabilities. They are showing us what their ordinary people can do when not being restrained.
Out.
Marcus nodded slowly. Thank you, Ambassador Lyra. You understand? These ships at your borders. They are not warships. They are colony vessels, mining barges, scientific exploration craft. This is what our civilians do. You have not even seen what our military can do, and you never want to. General Kane's voice carried the weight of decades of military experience. Every human vessel you see is crewed by volunteers. People who saved for years to afford their passage. Families who pooled resources across generations. Dreamers who would rather die in space than live in a cage. You cannot defeat that with superior firepower. You can only kill them. And if you kill them, you create martyrs. And martyrs create movements. On the tactical displays, more human ships were arriving. Not dozens, hundreds. They were coming from everywhere, converging on council space from 1,000 different directions. This was not a coordinated military operation. This was something far more terrifying. This was organic, emergent, unstoppable. Rachel checked her incoming data feeds. Those 847 asteroids I mentioned? That was 3 years ago. We have been tracking more since then. The current count is 1,231 potential impact events. We have been quietly preventing them, redirecting them, protecting you without being asked, because that is what good neighbors do. She let that information settle before continuing. But we are not feeling very neighborly right now. We are feeling actually annoyed. And when humans are actually annoyed, we stop doing favors. The implications crashed through the chamber like a wave. Humans had been protecting Council worlds for years without anyone knowing. Now that protection was being explicitly offered as a bargaining chip, Ambassador Lyra spoke again. Hi, Chancellor. They are not trying to start a war. They are trying to show us that war is pointless. They have already won. They won 200 years ago when we allowed them into space. We just did not realize it until now. Marcus saw this shift happening. Not in everyone, but in enough beings to matter. The vote that had seemed so decisive an hour ago was now looking like a mistake. Fear was being replaced by calculation, and calculation favored negotiation. So here's what happens next, Marcus said, his voice calm but absolutely firm. You rescind your judgment. You grant us the same rights every other species enjoys. You stop treating human expansion as a crime and start treating it as normal galactic activity. You do this, and we continue being good neighbors. We continue preventing asteroids from hitting your worlds. We continue sharing our technology. We continue being patient. He paused and his eyes went cold. Or you refuse, and we show you what happens when humans stop being patient. When we stop preventing disasters. When we stop sharing. When we stop caring about being good neighbors. When 15 billion desperate, short-lived, brilliant, stubborn humans decide that if they cannot explore the galaxy peacefully, they will do it by force. The chamber held its breath. High Chancellor Vorn's energy matrix pulsed rapidly, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. You are asking us to surrender, no, Marcus corrected. We are asking you to be reasonable. There is a difference, and you have 1 hour to decide. The gravity field around the humans remained active, but it no longer mattered. Everyone in the chamber understood that the real power was not in the field holding 5 humans suspended in the air. The real power was in what those 5 humans represented. An entire species that had learned to survive by being smarter, faster, and more persistent than anything else in their evolutionary history, and now that species was done being patient. The hour that High Chancellor Vorn had been given was passing with agonizing slowness. The Grand Assembly Hall had transformed from a place of judgment into something more like a war room. Species huddled in groups, debating frantically. Holographic displays showed the human fleet still holding position at the borders of Council space, neither advancing nor retreating, simply waiting. Marcus Webb and his team remained suspended in the gravity field. They had not moved, had not spoken. They simply waited with a patience that was somehow more threatening than any weapon. Ambassador Lyra had spent the entire hour moving between different species groups, building a coalition. Now, she floated to the center of the chamber and addressed High Chancellor Vorn directly. I have been consulting with various delegations. We have enough votes to overturn the original judgment. Vorn's energy matrix flickered with what could only be anger. The Council does not reverse its decisions. To do so would show weakness. No, Lyra countered. To reverse an incorrect decision shows wisdom. To maintain an incorrect decision shows stubbornness. Which would you prefer to be known for? Before Vorn could respond, War Master Thorn rose from its platform. The massive Krell warrior looked different now. Its sensory spines were neither flattened in fear nor raised in aggression. They were positioned in a way that the translation systems rendered as respect. High Chancellor, I have spent this hour studying human military history in detail. I must recommend immediate de-escalation. Not from fear, but from professional respect. Vorn's matrix pulsed with surprise. You, War Master? You would counsel retreat? I counsel reality, Thorn replied. The Krell have never known defeat in battle. We pride ourselves on this. But I have reviewed 3,000 years of human warfare, and I understand now why we have never faced them in combat. They do not fight like we do. They do not think like we do. The War Master pulled up battle data on the central holographic display. In one of their wars, outnumbered forces held a position for 3 days, with no supplies, no reinforcements, and no hope of survival. They held because they decided to hold. In another war, an entire city refused to surrender despite being surrounded and starved for 900 days. 900 days. Thorn paused, letting the numbers sink in. We fight until victory is impossible. Humans fight until they are dead. They have doctrine for fighting while wounded. They have strategies for winning after losing. They have contingencies for scenarios I have never even considered. This is not a species we want to go to war with. General Thomas Kane spoke for the first time in the hour of silence. Thank you, War Master. You understand something important? We do not want war. War is wasteful. War is expensive. War means people die who could have lived. But we are very, very good at war because we have never stopped practicing it. The serpentine alien scale shifted through several colors before settling on resignation gray. How can you be good at war while maintaining peace? That makes no sense. Dr. Olivia Grant answered, We maintain peace by being prepared for war. Every human child learns about historical battles. We study them. We analyze them. We play games simulating them. We make entertainment about them. War is woven into our culture, not because we love it, but because we respect it. We know what it costs, and we know how to do it efficiently. The vine being's crystalline leaves rustled. This is barbaric. Civilized species move beyond us. Violence. You moved beyond it because you never needed it, David Okonkwo said quietly. Your species evolved in gardens. You grew from peaceful soil. Humans evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill us. We did not have the luxury of moving beyond violence. We had to master it or die. The holographic displays suddenly changed. New contacts, multiple signatures dropping out of faster-than-light travel. These were not human ships. These were Council enforcement vessels responding to Vorn's call for military backup. Marcus saw them appear on the displays. His jaw tightened. That was a mistake, Chancellor. I will not be threatened in my own chamber, Vorn responded. Those vessels are merely a precaution. Engineer Rachel Yoon was already checking her scanners. 17 dreadnoughts. 43 cruisers. Over 200 support vessels. That is not a precaution, Chancellor. That is a battle fleet. She pressed several commands on her datapad. And you just triggered our contingency protocol. What? Contingency? Every human ship at the border suddenly began reconfiguring. Massive cargo containers were opening. Internal structures were shifting. Power signatures were changing in ways that made the Council's tactical officers pale or display whatever their species did when experiencing shock. General Kane explained calmly. Those colony ships, they are modular. Can be civilian transports. They can be construction platforms. Can be research vessels. Or they can be weapons platforms. Humans do not build single-purpose tools. We build adaptable ones. It is more efficient. War Master Thorn was studying the tactical displays with increasing alarm. They are not forming defensive positions. The formation makes no tactical sense. They are exposing their flanks, leaving gaps in coverage. That is because you are thinking about fleet combat, Kane said. You are thinking about ships protecting each other, coordinated defense, unit cohesion. We are not thinking about any of that. And what are you thinking about? Guerrilla warfare. Well, every one of those ships is an independent unit. They do not need to protect each other. They need to be annoying. They need to survive. Need to make you spend more resources hunting them than they are worth. Kane pulled up historical data. Your dreadnoughts are beautiful vessels, incredibly powerful, also incredibly expensive and time-consuming to build. Our ships? We can construct them in months. You destroy 10, we build 20 more. You destroy 100, we build 200 more. Can you say the same? The Krell War Master stared at the tactical display in growing horror. You would sacrifice your own people in this manner? We would expect them to be smart enough not to die pointlessly, Kane corrected. But yes, every human on those ships volunteered knowing the risks. They know they might die. They accepted that possibility because the alternative is living in a cage. And for humans, that is worse than death. could see the understanding spreading through the chamber. This was not a conventional military force that could be defeated in battle. This was an ideology, a movement, civilizational migration. You could not stop it with firepower. You could only delay it. Ambassador Lyra spoke urgently. High Chancellor, recall the fleet? Please. This is not a battle you want to start. It would show weakness. It would show intelligence, Lyra insisted. Look at the human positioning. They're not trying to win a battle. They're trying to start a war that will spread across the entire galaxy. Humans are everywhere now. They are on stations. They are on trade vessels. They work in our cities.
Oh.
If you fire on those ships, you will not be fighting a nation. You will be fighting an idea, and you cannot kill an idea with weapons. Marcus finally nodded. Thank you, Ambassador Lyra. You understand what others do not? This is not about winning today. This is about what comes after. You can destroy every ship out there. You probably would win that battle. But then what? He let the question hang in the air before continuing. Do you hunt down every human in the galaxy? Do you force us all back to Earth? Do you sterilize our homeworld? No, because that is the only way you actually stop us. Complete genocide. No. And if you do that, every species in this chamber will know that the Council's response to a problem it cannot control is extermination. The silence was absolute. The moral weight of the choice was crushing, Olivia added quietly. Or you could just let us live, let us expand. Let us be part of the galaxy, instead of treating us like a disease that needs to be cured. We are not asking for conquest. We are not asking for dominance. We are asking for the same basic rights you grant to every other species. David's voice was almost gentle. You made a judgment based on fear. You understand fear? We feel it ourselves. But fear is not a reason to cage an entire species. Fear is a reason to communicate, to understand, to find common ground. Rachel checked her displays. The Council fleet is 30 minutes from engagement range. Our ships have their orders. If fired upon, they scatter and begin asymmetric operations. You will spend the next century hunting small human vessels through the galaxy, while more keep launching from Earth, or you can recall your fleet and talk to us like equals. Marcus looked directly at High Chancellor Vorn. This is the moment, Chancellor. This is where you decide what kind of leader you want to be. Do you start a war you cannot win, or do you choose peace? Vorn's energy matrix flickered rapidly, processing countless variables and probabilities. The entire chamber waited, and in the silence, everyone could hear the clock counting down to disaster. The 30 minutes felt like 30 hours. The Grand Assembly Hall remained locked in tense silence as High Chancellor Vorn communicated with the Council primacy through channels that existed beyond normal space and time. The human fleet held position at the borders. The Council enforcement fleet continued its approach. Every second brought both sides closer to a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. Finally, Vorn's energy matrix stabilized into a pattern that suggested decision. I have consulted with the Council primacy. We have reviewed all available data. We have considered all possible outcomes. Marcus Webb kept his expression neutral, but his heart was pounding. This was the moment. Everything humanity had worked for over 2 centuries came down to whatever words came next. We have also, Vorn continued, been reminded by Ambassador Lyra of certain historical precedents that are concerning. The holographic displays shifted to show ancient ruins, structures that defied conventional physics, technology so advanced it looked like magic. The remnants of the progenitors. 3 million years ago, Vorn said slowly, a species emerged that the Council of that era attempted to contain. The records are fragmented, but the outcome is clear. That species did not accept containment. The resulting conflict lasted 3,000 years and ended with the collapse of that council and the extinction of 47 species who sided against the progenitors. War Master Thorn spoke up. The progenitors did not destroy those species through superior military force alone. They did it through persistence, through refusal to accept defeat, through the same stubbornness we are seeing in humanity now. Ambassador Lyra added her voice. The progenitors were eventually not defeated but integrated. They became the foundation of the next council era. They shaped galactic civilization for 1 million years after the war ended, but the cost of that war was incalculable. We do not want to repeat that history. Vorn's matrix pulsed through several colors. Ambassador Webb, if we rescind our judgment. What guarantees can humanity provide that you will not become the threat we fear? Marcus considered his answer carefully. This was the moment for truth, not diplomacy. Not Chancellor. The chamber reacted with shock, but Marcus continued before the protests could build. We cannot guarantee we will never be a threat, because we do not know what the future holds. But here is what we can guarantee. We do not want to conquer you. We do not want to rule the galaxy. Just want to be part of it. Dr. Olivia Grant took over. Every fear you have about us is based on speculation about what we might do. But look at what we have actually done. We have followed your laws. We have contributed to galactic trade. We have shared technology. We have helped species in need. Our actions do not match your fears. Engineer Rachel Yoon pulled up economic data. We are also willing to formalize our cooperation, share our modular ship designs, provide our efficiency protocols, help you build faster and better, not as tribute, as trade. We help you advance. You give us the space to grow. Everyone benefits. General Thomas Kane added. We are also offering military cooperation, not integration. Cooperation. If there is a threat that endangers all of us, we fight together. Separate forces, coordinated strategy. You get access to our tactical innovations. We get access to your defensive networks. David Okonkwo spoke last. What we are proposing is true partnership. Not us joining your system, not you adapting to ours. Something new. A model where different approaches to civilization can coexist and support each other. The serpentine alien's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. You are proposing we restructure the entire concept of the Galactic Council. We are proposing you update it, David corrected. The Council was built for species that think in geological time, but the galaxy is changing. New species are emerging faster. Technology is advancing more rapidly. You can either adapt to that reality or be left behind by it. Ambassador Lyra floated forward. Hi, Chancellor, I move that we vote again. Not on restricting humanity, but on granting them full council membership with equal status and equal rights. They have been members for 200 years, someone objected. They have been probationary members with limited rights. Lyra corrected. I am proposing full membership. The same rights as founding species, the same voice in council decisions, the same protections, and the same responsibilities. Vorn's energy matrix pulsed rapidly. This is unprecedented. We have never granted full status to a species so young, and maybe it is time for a new precedent, Lyra said firmly. Call the vote, Chancellor. The voting display activated. The chamber watched as numbers began to appear. Every species weighing the choice between maintaining the old order and embracing something new. Between fighting a war they could not win and accepting a peace they had not imagined in. Favor of full membership, 1,612. Against 890-7. Abstaining, 491. The motion passed. Hi, Chancellor. Vorn's matrix stabilized into a pattern of acceptance. Very well. Humanity, the Council recognizes you as full members with all rights and responsibilities. The expansion restrictions are lifted. The original judgment is rescinded. Your vessels may proceed. Gravity field released. Marcus and his team gently floated down to the chamber floor. As their feet touched solid ground for the first time in hours, Marcus allowed himself a small breath of relief. Thank you, High Chancellor, he said formally. Hey. Do not thank me yet, Vorn warned. You wanted equal treatment. That means equal responsibility. When the next crisis comes, and it will, we expect humanity to stand with the Council. We will, General Kane confirmed. That is what allies do. Something unexpected happened then. War Master Thorn approached the human delegation, its massive armored form moving with surprising grace. It extended an armored appendage toward Marcus's War Master. Marcus asked, uncertain of the gesture. You said humans evolved as persistence predators. The Krell evolved as pack hunters. We understand honor in combat. We understand strength through determination. I think we understand each other better than most species here. Thorn paused. Welcome to the council, humans. Try not to make things too interesting. General Kane gripped the extended appendage firmly. No promises, War Master, but we will try. Over the next hour, as species began to depart the chamber, dozens of delegations approached the humans. Some wanted trade agreements. Some wanted technology exchanges. Some wanted military consultations. Some simply wanted to understand these strange, fast-moving beings better. The serpentine alien approached Dr. Olivia Grant, who scared us. You know that. We know, Olivia admitted. We were counting on it. But we do not want to be scary. We want to be understood. Then help us understand. Why the urgency? Why can you not simply slow down? Olivia thought carefully about her answer. Because every human who does not get to see the stars is a dream that dies. We live less than a century. We cannot waste time. Every delay is someone's entire life spent waiting. We cannot do that to each other. Our speed is not aggression. It is compassion for our own people. Alien scales shifted to understanding blue. So you move fast because you care about individual dreams? Exactly. We care about each person's chance to live fully. Does that make sense? It does? Thank you for explaining. As the last delegates left, the 5 humans stood alone in the massive chamber. The lights were dimming. The bioluminescent walls fading to rest mode. Rachel checked her datapad. The fleet is receiving new orders. They are proceeding to their designated colony sites. Legal colony sites now. Leavitt smiled. We just threatened our way into full council membership. We negotiated our way into it, Marcus corrected. The threat was just context. Showing them who we really are. Both the good parts and the dangerous parts. Kane looked at the empty chamber. Now comes the harder part. Living up to everything we just promised. Being good neighbors while refusing to be caged. Olivia nodded. That is humanity in summary. We are complicated. They walked toward the exit, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. Behind them, the holographic displays shut down one by one. The crisis was over. The fleet was dispersing. A new era was beginning. As they reached their shuttle, Marcus paused and looked back at the council building. Do you think they really understand now? Why species run when humans say they are actually annoyed? The smart ones do, Kane replied. The others will learn eventually, and if they do not. Marcus smiled, that same patient, dangerous smile he had worn in the chamber. Then we teach them. But hopefully it does not come to that. I much prefer being polite. They boarded the shuttle. As it lifted off, heading back toward the human diplomatic vessel, they finally relaxed. The gravity field was gone. The judgment was rescinded. Humanity had its freedom. But across the galaxy, a new understanding was spreading. A new rule being quietly added to the protocols of interstellar diplomacy. When humans say they are being patient, appreciate their restraint. When humans smile and cooperate, recognize their effort. When humans say they are annoyed, fix the problem immediately. But if humans say they are actually annoyed, then it is already too late. Because that is when they stop pretending to be something they are not. That is when they become what they have always been. Persistence predators from a death world. Survivors of ice ages and extinctions. Beings who looked at an impossible universe and decided they belonged there anyway. That is when humans become truly dangerous. Not because they want to be, but because they refuse to be anything less than free and across the galaxy. Every species that witnessed what happened in the council chamber would tell their descendants the same story. Not as a warning. More as a reminder. Be fair to humans. Give them space to exist. Treat them with respect, because if you do not, you will learn what it means when they stop being patient. When they stop being diplomatic. When they stop holding back the full weight of 15 billion desperate, brilliant, stubborn individuals who have only one life to live and refuse to waste it. Nobody wants that lesson. Nobody.